So hello guys, what's up and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's me, your girl Barrister Neze, and this is Nezeville. Now let's move to the next suspect, the nurse.
Miss Feyi Sayon Ogedengbe is the auxiliary nurse who was contacted and invited by Yobani Sadiq, aka Spending, a friend of Mohbad, on 11 September 2023 to treat the singer at the deceased residence in Lekki. She eventually came on Tuesday, 12 September 2023 and administered 3 different injections, which are believed to have occasioned the chain of reactions that directly resulted in the eventual death of the singer. She is the principal suspect in the death of Mohbad.
After Mohbad's fight with his best friend, Prime Boy, on the 10th of September, the night of the 10th of September, and the injury happened. On the 11th, the very next day, a friend of Mohbad called this nurse, Feyi, to come treat Mohbad at his residence in Lekki, Lagos. The nurse arrived the next day, on the 12th. It is not clear if Feyi is Mohbad's private nurse. And when I say private nurse, I mean that go-to nurse that he calls to come treat him at home whenever he's feeling some kind of way. I don't know if they already had that pre-existing relationship, or if he was called one-off for the first time by this friend of Mohbad. But she arrived on the 12th of September and then went ahead to administer 3 injections on Mohbad. The first, tetanus toxoid, which I believe is usually given when there is a wound or a cut. Medical practitioners, please feel free to drop your contributions down in the comment section. The second, paracetamol IV intravenous. So he was injected with paracetamol, which I believe is used for the treatment of fever, headaches, and pains. And the third, cetrazone injection. Doctors in the house, nurses, medical practitioners, do let us know what that is used for. So she administered those 3 injections to Mohbad, and she is believed by the police to have taken the action which directly caused the death of the singer. It is reported that immediately after Feyi administered these injections to Mohbad, and when I say immediately, I mean immediately, they were administered, Mohbad began vomiting, getting goosebumps, jerking and convulsing, and eventually died.
Her actions of administering doses of tetanus toxoid, paracetamol, intravenous, and cetrazone injection, which was also administered intravenous on Mohbad at his residence, that's Mohbad's residence, on 12 September 2023, immediately triggered the reactions, including vomiting, goosebumps, and convulsion, that eventually resulted in the singer's death.
She has now been declared the principal suspect in Mohbad's death, the prime suspect. And according to the police, she has issued a confessional statement admitting that it was those injections that she gave to Mohbad that led to the immediate trigger that ended in death. And according to the COP, the Commissioner of Police, her confession was supported, was corroborated by witnesses, people that were in the house that day, that saw everything that happened. They attested that that was what happened.
She acknowledged that it was the injections that she administered on the deceased that triggered the reactions which eventually led to Mohbad's death. Other expert opinions and witnesses' statements corroborated her admittance.
So as mentioned, Feyi is being treated as the prime suspect in Mohbad's death because according to the police, her actions directly, immediately triggered Mohbad's death. Now, even worse for her, to further compound her liability and her troubles, she is now said to be a quack nurse with no license or certification to practice. She's not a registered nurse.
This criminal liability is further heightened, granted the evidential fact that as an auxiliary nurse, she is not qualified to administer such medications or function as a qualified nurse.
So two things may play out. First, she could be held for criminal negligence, administering an unsuitable medication in a place outside a medical facility. Now, on the question on whether she could be held for murder, well, it is doubtful. Nothing is an impossibility, but some things are doubtful. Some things are more sure than the others. Now, because of what I had explained earlier on intent to kill, it is unlikely that she could be held for murder. If it was purely negligence or a medical error, she can't be held for the offense of murder. At best, it could be manslaughter in addition to criminal negligence.
She also did this in a non-clinical environment and in a professionally negligent manner that negated standard medical protocols.
Said it. You hear the COP hammer on that part, negligence? That's going to be used very strongly in this case against her. Except it is proven that she was paid, she was hired by some other person. You know, all sorts of concepts and theories have emerged in this case. Some people have alleged that the nurse was paid by Sam Larry or Naira Marley to eliminate Mohbad. If there is sufficient evidence about that, if that is proven, only then can she be held for murder. But what is most unlikely to happen is for the nurse to be let loose with no consequence. That is very, very unlikely to happen. While the nurse has not addressed the media directly like Prime Boy did, which of course is within the purview of her rights, she has the right to silence. Her mother has now cried out that her daughter is innocent. Now let us move in to the third suspect, Ayobami Sadiq, aka Spending.
Sadiq is a friend to Mohbad who invited the auxiliary nurse to treat the deceased. He is being suspected of conspiracy in the death of the singer. His action in inviting a person known to him as an auxiliary nurse to attend to the deceased under a non-clinical setting occasioned Mohbad's death. He is being held for conspiracy to commit felony.
Sadiq's offense is procuring the quack nurse who treated Mohbad, thus in law making him a conspirator. Before we go on, let me remind you to subscribe if you're not. Hit the subscribe button and turn on your bell notifications. There is so much that you will learn on this channel free of charge, free of cost. So much information, so much education, and so much entertainment here on Nezavale. So do hit the subscribe icon before we proceed. Since Mohbad's death is being treated as murder or at best manslaughter by the police, he has been arrested and detained for the offense of conspiracy in a felony. A felony is a very serious offense. So he is being held as a conspirator in a felony. One major factor that will be considered in the adjudication of Sadiq's case is knowledge. Knowledge of the fact that this nurse was a quack. Yes, I know that we are all aware of the saying that ignorance is not an excuse, but a lot of people are quite ignorant of the full context and meaning of that saying. That law stems from the Latin maxim, ignorantia juris non excusat, ignorantia factum excusat, which simply means in English, ignorance of the law does not excuse, but ignorance of the facts excuses. Law does not excuse. If you're ignorant of the law, it doesn't excuse. If you're ignorant of the facts, it excuses. Now, for example, you go to a bank and it's raining, it's a rainy day. You came with an umbrella and you kept your umbrella outside the bank. And after your banking transactions, you picked up what you believed was your umbrella and you started going, or your purse, your bag, right? And somebody yells, thief, ole, thief, she has stolen my bag. Now, if you say you are ignorant of the law, that you didn't know that stealing is a crime, you didn't know that taking that bag is a crime, then that is not an excuse in that case, because ignorantia juris non excusat. Ignorance of the law does not excuse. But if you say that I thought that this was my bag because it bears the same color or design or dimension as mine, so you are ignorant of the fact that that bag isn't yours. Ignorantia factum. Ignorance of the facts. And in law, that excuses. Hence, you will not be held liable for stealing that bag for the offense of theft, because you were not aware, you were ignorant of the facts that the bag was not yours. So also applies in this case. If the excuse, spending, if his excuse is that I didn't know that a quack nurse was not supposed to treat somebody, I thought that all nurses, as long as they have experience, can treat, then that will not dissolve him of liability. That will not exculpate him. But if he can prove that it was his honest belief that the nurse was registered and licensed to practice as a nurse because she has presented herself in that capacity, and that MOHBAD has been using her in the past, so he was under the impression that he hired a qualified nurse, that may stand as an excuse in this case. Ignorance of the facts. But if he cannot establish any of these facts, then I'm afraid that he has something big cooking and coming. He will be held for conspiracy to commit a felony. And let me read briefly to you what the law says about conspiracy. The offense of conspiracy is a very dicey and tricky one. Let me inform you what our law says. Whoever is a party to a criminal conspiracy to commit an offense, a party to a criminal conspiracy to commit an offense, punishable by death or imprisonment, shall be punished in the same manner as if he committed such offense. So a conspiracy to commit an offense is legally seen and punished in the exact same manner as the individual who committed the offense himself. So for example, again, I like to buttress my teachings with examples for easier assimilation. Two people, Jack and James. Let me use James and Ade. James and Ade conspired to kidnap a person, and Ade did the act of kidnapping, grabs the person and kidnapped the person. If Ade is sentenced to death for that kidnapping, James, who conspired with Ade to kidnap the victim, will be punished in the same exact fashion, which is death also, despite he wasn't present at the scene of the kidnapping and he didn't physically kidnap the person. So the offense of conspiracy is treated and punished exactly as though you committed the offense with your own hands.
He's being held for conspiracy to commit felony.
So this is quite serious, because if this nurse is held liable for murder, the conspirator, Spending, Ayobami, will also get the same exact degree of punishment. On Sam Larry and Naira Marley, let us listen